Are we live?
We are up and running and ready to go.
Fantastic.
Morning.
All right. This is the City of Harbor Springs Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, March 19th. It's 5:31 Eastern. And Jeff, can you lead us through a roll call?
I can. Bob Buckner.
Here.
Jeannie Benjamin.
Here.
Kenny Stewart. Here. Tony Johnson.
Here.
Aaron Fucci. Gabby.
Good.
Yeah.
You got it. Here.
I'm so sorry.
No, you got it.
So we have a quorum, but as we were briefly discussing before the meeting, we only have 5 people present, which is sufficient to hold the meeting. It's unfortunately not sufficient to take action on a special land use. The bylaws specifically state that we need a 2/3 majority of the full board in order to approve a special land use. So that would require 6 positive votes to take action on that. We could still have a discussion and provide some feedback to the applicant who is here. But I think the appropriate thing to do would be at some point to table it and bring it back up for discussion at the April meeting. If that works for the applicant, if April doesn't work.
What is the date of April?
Good question.
16th.
It's April 16th.
Yes.
It might work for my client to be here. It won't work for me, but personally, but it might work for the client, so.
Well, I don't think we're stuck to that, April or May. We don't wanna table it indefinitely without a future date.
Right.
But if we know of a date that we wanna table it for, we could do that.
I'd say the 16th, and then if something comes up we can't attend, is it?
That's fine.
Could you guys retable it then to May?
I think so.
Okay.
We could also evaluate and decide without them here if they choose that. Is that correct?
If the applicant could just choose to be heard on the file and then they could proceed. The downside is if you have any questions, the applicant isn't there to help answer and alleviate any concerns.
Okay.
If you want to review, we should also though, I think it might be appropriate to hold off on the public hearing until the next meeting. You could certainly take public feedback today though, if you
Okay.
wanted to.
All right. I'll defer to my council people in terms of whether or not it's even worthy of a conversation today. I'm fine entertaining that. It might be redundant with the effort that we do a month from now, but Kenny, I know you've got some questions and yeah, so I mean, I think that's fine. We just have to recognize that no real decision is going to be made today. Perhaps just clarity, right? I mean, which is not a bad thing.
Right. If there's things that can be addressed that help the application for next meeting, that we owe it to the applicant to do that.
I agree, Tony. Okay, sounds good. So in that context, then the first issue on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And does anybody have any questions or suggestions or additions to the minutes? No?
Nothing that I noticed.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion from a member of,
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, you'll second?
Well, you can second.
All right, I'll second.
Oh, it's Paul. Second.
You can do an all in favor on that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Great. All right, so I'm not entirely sure about the procedure on this, Jeff, so help me out on this, but there are some points of clarification in the agenda that I think need to be made, and also some additional things that need to be added to the agenda. Is now the time to talk about that?
Yeah, I think now would be an appropriate time, and just for anybody that's not up to date on the current discussion. Last night at City Council, there was a discussion that was had regarding, having a discussion about potential requests for proposal for the planning consultant, with the City of Harbor Springs.
Right.
And the ultimate decision was City Council said, let's get feedback from the Planning Commission.
Correct.
So, I think it would be fine to have a motion to amend the agenda to add that item as a discussion topic. If if you think that tonight is an appropriate time to have that discussion.
Well, so let's talk about that, because it's a skeleton fruit, and so, how does the commission feel about taking that on as a 5-piece as opposed to a 9-piece?
All right, I think we should probably, well, how urgent of a matter is this, Jeff?
I don't know that it's urgent. I think we don't want to delay it too long. There are 5 here. We have 4 people absent. We do have correspondence from 2 planning commission members that aren't here today. And Chip Everest is available on Zoom to participate in discussion. He just can't take action on any voting matters. So you really only have 1 member that isn't available to get their thoughts and opinions on the matter. But that's up to you whether you want to have the discussion tonight. If you feel that you'd like to have all 9 members here for the meeting, I think it could. Yeah, many of you were at the meeting last night, so you guys probably have an idea of how urgent you think that this is.
So let's have a conversation about that, because this is not gonna be an easy issue. I don't think it's gonna be unanimous. I'm sure it's not gonna be a unanimous issue. So how do you guys feel about that? Would it be better to have everybody here face to face and talk this through, or do you feel like we can handle it tonight?
I feel like it would be most appropriate to have everybody here. That would be the fair thing to do.
Okay, others?
I agree with Jeannie. I think there's some basic discussion items. I think this started out from last night's meeting. It seemed like it caused some contention, and I don't think that's, I have no idea, but I don't think that was the intent. To me, it was, I think as Mayor Graham said, hey, I run a business every so often, every year, every 2 years, I go through and I say, how can I make things more efficient? Requesting a proposal from another company shouldn't be looked at as we're getting rid of our current consultant. I think it's just, we have a fiduciary duty to the city and its residents to find the best and most cost-effective consultant we can. It may be Beckett and Rader, but I don't think we should jump to conclusions that therefore don't do an RFP at all. That's like doing a no bid or a 1 bid contract. That, to me, if I'm, looking after the city, that's not being a good fiduciary.
Right.
I have a suggestion. Jeannie, I support your point of view. It's an important topic that requires everyone to weigh in. I'm hoping that we do have everyone here for the next meeting, although there's no guarantee. But perhaps we could discuss it only in the points of getting some clarification around certain things. Chip, I know you had a couple of questions about how the current contract is structured, and I have a couple of questions about who is the real contract manager for that.
Right.
So if we could discuss those things, stop short of providing, here's my point of view, I think that might be helpful.
So more informational than anything else.
Clarification and information.
I think that's a good suggestion.
And then an additional suggestion is that we obviously count heads for the next meeting to see if we have
I'm not
everybody.
here.
Well, I was gonna say, and if they cannot be here, such as, then they submit their point of view in writing, much like what Barry and Vanessa did. And that way we do have
Yes.
everybody.
I would be happy to represent Jeannie's point of view on this issue.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. We'll see what Jeannie says about that.
Yep, I think she,
I trust both.
yeah.
Chip Everest has his hand up on this matter, so.
Okay.
Chip?
Hi, guys. I really apologize for not being there. I know that's
Hey, Jim.
inconvenient for everybody. And I like what Bob Bugner just said. We should be looking at this as a business decision, good stewardship of taxpayer dollars. And you always, in companies and nonprofits I represent, you always go out for RFPs. And this is not a verdict on Beckett and Rader at all. Just it gives us an opportunity to relook at things. And I think we should look at that not as a not as a verdict of Beckett Rader at this point.
Okay, thank you. So do we have the information that Kenny was talking about? Do we know specifically what the contractual terms are, what the obligations are, what our commitment is financially? Who actually makes the decision to hire? It's not us. So who actually makes the decision to hire Beckett? Do we know that?
Let me provide a little bit of background, and I think referring to this as a contract is maybe not the appropriate way to do it.
Okay.
I think this is more of, it was a firm that was hired to assist us as needed. It's not a full-time position, so it's just as we need services, we ask them to provide those services and they bill us for it. Just like we do with our legal services that we have Jim Raymer for, just like our engineering services that we have Benchmark for. My understanding at the time, looking back at the records and talking with Nick, the city clerk, the first time that we were billed for services from Beckett and Rader was in December of 2022.
Yeah.
Also looking at the records, it looks like we're being billed approximately $25,000 per year for the services that they provide.
Okay.
So I think this is maybe more in lines with, you know, like a part-time employee as opposed to like a specific contract. I don't think we have a contract with a set end date or whatnot. And I think also because of that, it's handled a little bit differently. And it's why we don't do RFPs on an ongoing basis. We certainly haven't done that for any of the other consultants that we've used. At the time, my understanding at the time when Beckett and Rader was hired, Victor, the city manager, sent out requests for proposals, came in and had people interview, and then the position was offered to Beckett and Rader.
Okay. So more like a time and expenses engagement rather than a contractual engagement.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, who actually said, let's go with Beckett and Rader? Was that Victor or staff? Planning commission?
I'm still looking into that. I believe that the offer was extended to Beckett and Rader from the city manager. I don't know whether that went to council for any council decision. Nick and I are looking at the minutes from 2022 to see if that was something that was in the city manager's report or maybe part of a consent agenda item, or whether it was an actual discussion. I don't have that answer for you at this time. I'm sorry.
Somebody's microphone. Ugly.
It's me.
Okay.
That's what you're.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. And another question that I had was in the letter from the concerned citizens or whatever they called it. They said that planning commission will be starting a master planning process this year. Is that true? And are we required to revisit or start again the master planning process this calendar year? And is it our job as the planning commission to do that?
I don't think. I don't believe we have an obligation that we have to do it on a set schedule. It is encouraged that approximately every 5-ish years that you at least open up and look at your master plan to see if it's still current. That look could just be at a meeting, we say, yeah, it still looks good. Or we could say, well, let's update some of our goals and objectives. Or like we did in 2022, we could completely overhaul the document. That level of review is up to the planning commission of what you feel is appropriate. I think the time between when we adopted it and the previous one was closer to 7 or 8 years. I think it's best practice to at least give it a review every 5-ish years. I don't know that we'll get to it here in 2026. We have a number of other issues that we need to take care of that I think will postpone us getting to the master plan.
I remember you
I would-
signage was a big.
Sign.
Yeah, so the big one is, we adopted the new zoning code and we made the decision to remove all the signage language and separate that into its own separate ordinance. So the new zoning code that we have doesn't have any signage language in it. We're still using the signage language from the old code. And so the idea is that the next thing we should do for our big project is adopt a new signage ordinance. It can be the same regulations that we have today. But you know, we need to do something there, and there are some things that we've determined need to be corrected based on some legal court cases and some other stuff. So I think that once we've done that, we could then look and say, let's have a meeting to open up the master plan and determine what type of a review or update we would like to do to that. I'm just taking a guess here. I would assume, depending on how long it takes us to get through signage, that might be sometime in 2027.
Let's say, we managed to do signage. And then we do start it on the master plan review at whatever level. Just help me out for what the future is gonna look like. Who decides the ink is gonna dry on the master plan, it's gonna say these things? Are we in a recommendation role for city council, or how does that work?
I believe the process is very similar to the zoning code review. You know, you would open up the master plan for discussion, and then you would make a recommendation to city council of, you know, of what it is, whether the master plan is still good as it is, or what changes you might propose, or what, you know, along that line.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so real quick, I think we need to have more input from the rest of the planning commission before we make a recommendation. And it sounds like we probably wouldn't get a passing vote tonight anyway, so it might be better to wait until we have more people so we can make a decision one way or the other.
Tony, I completely agree, and I think that, you know, given the level of controversy that is undoubtedly going to be associated with whatever decision we come up with, you know, the people on both sides of the issue, we owe it to them to make sure that we've got a complete council or a complete commission that is making decisions, rather than just having 5 people who would happen to be in March make that call.
I think it's important. I think everything that's been said is valid and all smart moves in my sense, which you already know how I feel, Bob, and it isn't a play against Beckett and Rader. I got involved in all of this truly because of all of this in town.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more you put out there, say, okay, this is the process. It isn't that our former city manager chose this guy and now we all like him. It's okay, this is our chance. We have a new city manager. We have new things we're looking at. It's a time to say, where are we? Where are we going? And is this where we want to go? So it isn't so much meant to be such a contentious, it's meant to be a fresh start. Let's all trust each other again. Let's all move forward and see how the process works.
Understood, and I think that's a great way to look at it. So do we have a motion then to table this to the April meeting?
I can make that motion. Okay, to table the discussion for an RFP, or I don't even know if it is a proposal, but at least looking into our consultant until our next planning commission meeting.
I don't even think we need a motion. This isn't something that's already on the agenda. I think if there's a consensus of the planning commission to add this to the agenda for the April 16th meeting, I think that is sufficient.
Okay,
We're just creating the agenda item to promote the discussion.
yeah, so to provide clarity, to me, there are 2 issues. Number one, how does the planning commission feel about the work that's been done on our behalf by Beckett and Rader, right? I mean, do we think it's good work? Do we think it's bad work? And number 2, in that context, would that lead us to recommend an RFP, or would that lead us to say, we like the way things are going, let's just keep going?
I don't think it's a matter of, I don't think it needs to be so critical. I think it's just a matter of, we are here. Let's see what's out there.
Okay, so just a subtle nuance here. We don't hire these people, so it's really not. I don't think it's our authority to say we want an RFP, if you know what I mean.
But maybe we can make the recommendation to the city manager to say we are at a spot that we'd like to be more transparent on how this all works, and we'd like to see options.
Okay, well, let's debate that when we have.
And I'm not here next meeting, so I'll have to.
All right, well, like I say, I can represent your opinion.
What is?
I definitely
anybody- Chip, sorry, I didn't even know all that.
No,
No, I don't mean to interrupt, but my point is I've done a lot of these with law firms and consultants paid on an hourly basis, like we do Beck and Rader. And you negotiate hourly rates for one thing, but more importantly, you find out what kind of capabilities they can provide to us. And it's more of a holistic look at it rather than just an RFP. So the RFP is not just based on a fixed price. So yeah, I just think it's just an opportunity to find out what else is out there. And like I said, most of the time we do this, the incumbents end up winning anyway. But it's always a good, healthy thing to do.
yeah, understand. Okay,
What's your best guess on when we'll see a new city manager?
June.
June.
The only thing I ask on my end is that when you have that dialogue in April, that we come up with pros and cons and not just that we don't like this. You know, like we need, if we're gonna do an RFP, we need to know what the old firm didn't do correctly or what they did correctly. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah,
That to me, that's crucial. Like I can.
Yeah,
people
I
say,
did-
the police chief.
I disagree. We're gonna give them a blank slate and say, what can you do for us? We're not gonna accuse people of doing things or not doing things. That's not our role. Our role is just to issue an RFP and find out what else is out there.
But
we
we
do-
have to evaluate, Chip, I agree, but you also have to evaluate what you have. If you don't know what you have and you don't have it on paper, you don't know what to compare it to.
You evaluate what you have once you get the RFP responses. I mean, you find out, I don't think we need to do any of that. I think I agree with Jeannie. This doesn't need to be a critical thing against Beckett or Rader. We just need to, I guess, have the discussion if we want to issue an RFP. And it's again, most of the time the incumbents end up winning, but it's just a healthy process.
The last thing I'll say is, I agree with Chip to a certain extent, but if you're gonna go buy a new car, why are you getting rid of the old car?
Yeah.
It's
I don't know what
common
other-
sense thing.
What other kind of cars are out there? I don't even know what's available. So I'm going to go look.
I just want to make one comment. And I think the thing that complicates this a little bit is that the whole idea of an RFP was birthed last night by city council. If city council had, tell me if you disagree, but if city council hadn't brought that up last night, we would not be sitting here talking about asking for an RFP. That's kind of my point. All that said, I don't disagree with it. For 42 years, I was a consultant and I was on the receiving end of people who wanted to make sure that they were getting good value from our old company, Intalytics, and I understand how that process works. So I would say when we get 9 people back here, we can debate both of those things, but I want to make sure that, those are 2 slightly different issues. It's, are we getting good service? And in the context of are we getting good service, would we have asked for an RFP? That's kind of how I feel. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so a few comments on that. I think that the intent that
Introduce yourself, just for the record.
Carter Williams, 355 East Bay Street. So I think the concept of calling it an RFP is to say, what do we need ahead? What services do we need going forward? Define those, publish them, and solicit people who can deliver those services. And so in that conversation, you would have, it may be that the city manager actually executes on that, but the functions that are derived here, like the master plan, touch every single decision, as I mentioned last night. Everybody who stood up for a committee said, well, to meet the master plan, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So this function touches many people. The RFP is simply to say, well, we got a master plan coming up. we have Lansing is currently trying to eliminate all local zoning. The Lansing is also putting a law in place that requires the master plan to now include affordable housing requirement, expands the requirement of, and they're changing the Zoning Enablement Act. I'd encourage you to read the Zoning Enablement Act. It sets the law as to when you have to do a master plan and its scope. In the last instance of the master plan, people kept citing as it's the law, we have to follow it, which isn't true. And so there's a range of things that are in front of us that affect every single thing in Harbor Springs, and Lansing is starting to take some steps to invalidate the function of the planning commission. So with that as things in front of us, I think the suggestion of the proposal is, okay, that's, here's the list, here are the 15 things that we need going forward. Who are the right resources that we should have in the room to help do it? It could be that you need an aggressive city planner or someone in that role, or it could be that you need 2 different roles. So then you issue the RFP and you see what people say. I think it's nothing to do with a fight about anybody. It wasn't, the way to have fought it last night would have probably have a couple people vote on whether to get rid of them and get rid of them, if that was the issue, but that's not the issue. The suggestion is, let's think about going forward, and it's not whether you don't have the authority to do it, you have the requirements. And so by articulating those requirements, and if the RFP lands in the city manager and the city manager takes some other opinions, that's a good way to lead here. Take some opinions from the different departments of the legal authorities, the city manager, he goes ahead and executes it. But it's a simple way.
Assuming everything comes together with the potential new city manager, he seems to have an extensive background in planning to begin with. So it might be interesting to wait and see what he says. He's dealt with a lot of development with Bozeman and Montana and all the growth that they've had. So I just think it makes sense to put it all out there and see where it all falls.
So you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, and that is, I think we're all pretty much in agreement with where we want to go. And if I'm wrong about that, speak up now. That my only question is, we are going to have a new city manager, and I do feel pretty strongly that the city manager should have input in terms of what it is we're going to do as far as city planning, because of the things I spoke about last night, the continuity, the importance of that. So I just want that's just yet another box that we have to check. I think it would be foolish to submit a RFP that did not include input from the new city manager.
I agree with that.
Okay, everyone cool with that?
I am, but I just add one further comment, because just to go back to what I said before, I hope we don't get into this with our 9 members or 8 in a contentious way, because it's really, to me, it's back to what I said before. It's a fiduciary duty we have. And by the way, we're bringing in a new city manager, which we want that input.
Yeah.
It may be that the current consultant stays, but this is a great opportunity to say, what else is out there? And are we getting the right value for our money? Are we doing what's right for our constituents? So I hope we have that tenor to that next meeting, and not this is, something negative. It shouldn't be viewed that way.
City council.
I agree.
Used that tenor last night, but I agree with what you're saying.
I'd just like to remind everybody, this isn't something that we have as an agenda item. We should really kind of decide whether or not we want to discuss it tonight, or if we want to discuss it at
I agree.
a future meeting.
John, did you want to make a comment?
Just one more comment. I think where we're headed is exactly the right place. We need to make sure that we're meeting our fiduciary responsibilities, and it's always good. I was on the giving end and on the receiving end of having to justify my value to an organization. Our last planner was in that seat for 40 years, and this never came up.
Right.
And that was a mistake, looking back at it. So we can fix that going forward. But to Kyle's point, and to support what he said, whenever you go out for an RFP, you have to say, well, what's in the RFP? What do you want?
Yeah.
To not look at what you've had and the services you need going forward is foolish. So you look at what you did, what went well, what didn't go well. And then you know what you want to do, and that's the RFP. But to ignore your recent experience with, not with Beckett and Rader, but in the planning process, has to be part of the.
Yeah.
You have to eliminate the shortcomings. I mean, you have to, that's what got us to where we're at and where we think this is. We have to know what went wrong in order to make it better.
You can only do better. What are you defining
Yeah,
as better?
yeah, okay, I agree.
And I think the new city manager will do an excellent job with that, but just remember, I spoke with him for 40 minutes today. If it's Chris, I don't anticipate him here until June, so it's not like we, and ultimately, I think it's his position in the whole realm of things to make that decision of who are, I don't think council decide, I might be wrong, unless it's RFP that's above the threshold. It's ultimately the city manager's responsibility to hire that person as a recommendation of council.
As a recommendation of the planning committee.
All right, so Jeff makes a good point. This isn't even on the agenda. I think we're all on the same page on this. Yes, yes. Okay, so let's move on to my second.
So just for clarification, we're gonna be adding this as an agenda item on the April meeting?
Yes. Yep.
And just, sorry, Jeannie's not gonna be here. I mean, is there any reason? He's not gonna have boots on the ground till probably mid-May earliest. Would you wanna wait till June? Or maybe till May, I mean?
Bob and I had a great conversation and Chip and I had a great conversation. If they want to speak for me, I trust both of them. So whatever works for everybody else is fine with me.
Are you comfortable with us reviewing it thoroughly in the next meeting when you're gone?
I feel very strongly that it needs to be done and so I don't know. Other than that, I don't think I'm gonna change anybody's mind. I don't know what I can do to change it. They have better verbiage and better.
Yeah, we just have an unfortunate coincidence of timing and God only knows, if we pushed it off to May, what would happen there? Perhaps a good thing would be for you to do what Vanessa and Barry did and provide us with your summary. And as far as I'm concerned, and I may be violating all the rules, Robert's rules order, but I would consider that your vote. That's the way I would feel.
If it's something that's going to be voted on and my vote needs to be here for it, I would like to be here.
Yeah.
But if it's discussion and that's all it is,
Yeah.
I don't see the need to be here.
So let's add it to the April meeting and we'll take it up then. All right, I have one other suggested point of clarification. Item C, discussion on minimum story heights for properties in the central business district. I am going to recommend, and I'd like the opinion of my fellow council people, that we take that topic up today. But because we just received this memo from Lene 2 days ago on height in residential, and I know Kenny's been out of town and really haven't had a chance to digest it.
I've gotten all 8 letters. I don't have that one. So
Okay, so I would like to suggest that we punt that specific issue to the April meeting as well, and take on the CBD today as we originally planned. How does the council members feel?
I think that's fine to split them into two. I think the CBD is a conversation that we can have tonight.
Okay. Jean?
I don't want to hold anything up because I'm not in town, so I think you move forward the way you see fit.
I agree. I'd like to know when are we going to get the last letter? This is now in perpetual motion, and I think it's great. It's healthy to have the input, but it was approved the first week of January, and we've checked off all the issues that we've been receiving and reviewing all the correspondence. I've got them all listed here, except this one from 2 days ago. Normally, people, when they submit materials to be approved as a special land use, that requires a month lead time.
Mm-hmm.
The package goes out, what, 5-6 days before the meeting? We can't respond to a letter that came 2 days ago.
I did, does feel like chasing her.
I was 2,000 miles away 2 days ago. So, yeah, I don't even know of that letter. All right. Anyway, I think we can tackle what we had planned last month to tackle, which is things about the CBD.
Could I just, for clarification, did you say residential heights?
Yes,
How did that creep up into the agenda? Today or in the
It-
future?
it
That
did.
was
It
decided.
didn't, it's not on the
yeah,
agenda.
it's not on the agenda.
It's
It's a
new-
letter that was submitted from Lene and Karen, I'll give you a chance to speak on this. From Lene and the We Love Harbor Springs folks, dated March 16th, John, height in residential. And it kind of addresses a different perspective on the height in residential, which we frankly weren't anticipating for today's meeting.
That's my point.
Well, not only that, but let's not say today's meeting, after how many months of discussion?
Yeah.
We're going to open up the books on that because we got a letter.
I think the first order of business on that would be determine if that needs to be an agenda item on a future meeting.
Right.
Not what meeting to have the discussion, but whether there needs to be a discussion.
On that specific issue, yeah.
I mean, I'm with Kenny, when is it gonna stop?
Karen, would you like to?
Sure, Karen Ockfield, West Traverse Township. The things that have been on Lene's list were the heights. And that was way back in October, November, and December. And so it was Chip that said at the January meeting, I believe, or the last December meeting, that he wanted to go through the heights and the one other thing, what was it? I forget.
I think it was a.
Oh, yeah, EDs and heights. So when I asked Lene to, take a look at these things, what she has found, I believe, and she's on Zoom, so we can ask her, but I know it's not on the agenda, but I wanted her to hear this introduction, is that it's what's under the hood. It's what's under the 35 feet that she has brought to your attention in this 5-page letter. She was out of town. I asked her if she could just fill in the blanks because it sounded as though there were some things that were missed by Beckett and Rader about what it's the grade, it's the idea of, and I will never speak poorly about a beautiful home on Main Street that seems out of scale. And how can we maybe not have that come up as a regular occurrence? And so I asked her to write this last letter. And Kenny, I'm sorry that you feel that it's on and on and on, but these are the exact same things that were back in September, October, and November, and during the open houses when we came up with, that crazy list of, 60 things. So my apologies, but Lene is on on Zoom, but she can be available another time if you need some more support.
Well, let me just perpetuate the discussion a moment. I can't pull back here. The 420 Main Street example that she pointed out was in her December 5th letter. In January, we as a committee took Chip's suggestion, said, let's go through these things and make sure that we capture all the input. There was a collection of all of the submissions made. We reviewed them all and we're tackling the issues. We had one on the agenda for tonight. Since we decided to go through all the correspondence that's been submitted to date in January, we had another letter February 2nd, another one February 12th, another one 2 days ago. So say what you want about the topic, but we've got to get on with this. As a matter of fact, the recommendations about building heights have changed the different letters. So I'm all on board to bring these things to a closure, but we can't close it if somebody keeps perpetuating new issues or new wrinkles or new ideas about the same topic.
No,
I'm done with my sermon.
thank you.
So in that context, committee representatives, Do we want to take this issue up at the next meeting? Karen?
I think if it's that simple, we should at least discuss it. I don't think it's fair to the constituents if whatever group is out there has a concern. If we can address it that simply, then let's just do it. Rather than say, well, we don't have any opinion, or we're not gonna go any further on this. I think we could go through with whatever the specific bullets are, address them succinctly and right there in the meeting and have this be put to bed. I don't think we need to keep getting letters because we're not addressing it. I agree with you, Mr. Stewart, if we're getting letters that keep changing, now we're talking about this height, now we're talking about, but if it's just something direct, and Main Street, I think we could have a discussion on what qualifies as round to ridge. Is it one side of the street? Which elevation is it? Is it both? Is it the lesser of the two? Just put this to bed. So I don't want to drag it out. I agree with you. But if we can just hit with succinct bullets, let's just do it and be done with it. And let the public, if they have certain comments, bring it up and we address it. I don't want to have this lingering on.
It's my recollection, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the residential districts, building heights were not changed in the zoning code update.
You are not wrong.
Correct, okay. And also the definitions for how to measure height were not changed in the last building code update.
Regarding residential.
Residential.
There is one small change, and that is regarding where we measure height from.
Okay.
In the old code, we measured height from the grade at the face of the building. In the new code, we measure from the average grade of the whole property. So we're taking more of the property into consideration for determining the average grade.
We're discussing it.
Rob,
I
can
agree
say
with your
something?
input, but
Yes.
now we're discussing the item.
It's like, the decision today could be whether we're gonna discuss it. It's not an agenda item.
Yeah.
And we're discussing something that's an agenda item that was given to us 2 days. It should be nothing to do with the building heights period. It should be, do we want this on the next agenda?
I totally take your point. Yes, thank you for
Because
that.
we would have a room full of people if they knew that was on the agenda and we were discussing.
Yeah, no, you're right. Do we want to, that's great advice. So do we want to discuss?
I recommend we follow the agenda as planned,
Okay. Do we want
to the
to,
best of our ability, given the shortage of members.
I guess the better question is, do you feel that this issue of building heights and story heights in residential neighborhoods needs to be added to a future meeting agenda?
That's the question. I don't, but if the group does, I will support that.
I would agree with Kenny. We spent months, years talking about this. We came up with a zoning code that passed the planning commission unanimously, passed council unanimously. I don't see a reason to reopen this issue at this point in time.
Jeannie?
I agree with everything, excuse me, said. I guess I'm always devil's advocate and I'm very visual. So for me, it's hard to know what we don't know. I just returned from Anna Maria Island in Florida, and if you've ever been there, it is turned into 70%. This has nothing to do with this, but quickly. Rental properties, and to maximize space because of property values, houses are to sleep 16. And so I think we're safe. I'm playing devil's advocate with what we've decided, and not a lot changed from the old code, and I'm comfortable with all of that. Are we safe? Does play devil's advocate, what don't we know, and is it something that we need to worry about?
Aaron, you had expressed support for.
My concern, I think that we are pretty settled, 35 feet. I think it's good that Mr. Grimm brought up this average, which I'll tell you, I don't think most people know that. Because they look at that example on Main and they say, so was it ground to ridge line on Main or was it on Bay?
Point of order, just do you want residential on the agenda for future meeting.
Well, I don't see how we go wrong. I'm back to Jeannie. Can we just like have it be a couple bullets and go through this as, it doesn't have to be the next one, but we already have a code. So it's not like we're gonna change it, but if we have constituents telling us, hey, we have a concern, can we just address it? And not just skip over it?
The answer is yes, though. You want it on the agenda.
I would, and I would like it succinctly, it doesn't have to be the next one, but I would like it just to hit this so that we don't get any more letters. I mean, if that's what it's gonna take, here's what our position is, here's what the code says, here's our way forward.
Okay.
There's enough outcry, we keep getting these things, just. Heights are the biggest issue, I think, one of the biggest issue, especially in the CBD. So we've seen a lot of bad examples in our history. If the public is that concerned, and rightfully so, then why not just hit it with a couple bullets and just make them feel comfortable.
So I guess it's up to me, and I have actually spent a lot of time on Renee's letter. I do not share the concerns that she has. And from my perspective, I don't think it's worth putting it on the agenda on a go-forward basis. So, no. All right, let's move on.
Put hands up.
Oh, sorry, Chip. Oh,
No, I don't get to vote, but I think I get to talk a little bit. I would agree with Garen and Jeannie. Let's just put it to bed. I don't want to drag things out, and I definitely don't think we should be talking about it tonight because it hasn't been on the agenda. But I think we should tackle it in the next few meetings if we can. Thanks.
thank you. Pardon?
So Carter Wine, 355 East Bay Street, when this was approved at city council, one of the people on council said, let's do this, but you know, it's not permanent and there may be changes in the futures. You should establish, I think, some procedure to review suggestions. I think the thought that you got the code absolutely correct will be proven when people start building. And when they start building, they're gonna run into problems, and that's gonna start a cycle. And so what I might recommend you do is, one, say, instead of waiting every 30 years to change the zoning, think about whether you solicit changes in one meeting a year and say, Jeff, come forward with the issues you've seen. Community, come forward with the issues that you're concerned about. And say, here, you know, based on the things we know now, here are the things that we're concerned about, and then maybe do a more incremental shifts to the zoning without having to try to change the entire zoning all at once.
So thank you for that.
One last short comment. I
Yes.
agree with listening to the constituents and doing what's right for the town. The letter is from a consultant being paid by a special interest group. We're not hearing from constituents, at least not directly.
And to expand on that briefly, and I really do want to move on, because we're spending a lot of time on something that we're not even supposed to be talking about. But to expand on that, Jeff and I have talked about, and I think I've shared with the group, the importance of giving time for the dust to settle on the ordinance that we just passed. And we're committed, Jeff and I assume the entire planning commission is committed to being receptive to things that surface that are shortfalls or problems with the ordinance and addressing it, putting it in the parking lot and addressing it, you know, 4 months, 6 months down the road. We want to do that, Carter. So I'm fully supportive of that. So I'm going to say enough conversation on that. Let's move on to public comment. Any comments from the public either?
I'm sorry, I have one more recommendation for a future agenda item. And that is in the next meeting is planning commission discuss and develop a orderly process on how we're going to listen to and manage changes to the zoning code going forward. Do we do it every 6 months, what month, whatever, something like that?
So we already have a plan for, let's say, staff or city recommendations for changing the zoning code. We've already identified, we're gonna wait a few months, see any errors that we see need to be addressed, bring those back as a whole for planning commission review. We already have a process in place for any public that would like to make a change to the zoning code. If they have something that they would like to change in the zoning code, there is an application online, they can fill that application out, pay the fee, and bring that forward to the planning commission for discussion.
So has any of that been done with these letters we've been receiving?
No, these are letters submitted to the planning commission as correspondence. I have to bring those forward to you. But if they would like to submit something and say, here's the change we would like to see in the zoning code, you can always go back and say, fill out the application, submit the fee, and we will discuss it at a meeting. And then they can be placed on the agenda based on that.
Okay, we're treading water right now. Public comments, any comments from the public? Anybody online that would like to offer an opinion or comment?
I think Lene Wells has her hand up here.
I do. Thank you. Thank you all for the discussion and for accepting the letters that we've submitted. And I certainly recognize the importance of having ample time to review the memos. And we did not anticipate that you would address a memo that was given to you only 2 days in advance, but we do nevertheless hope that you do spend some time with it. I did want to point out with respect to 2 things. So the commercial height, we didn't change the height in feet, but what we,
But Lane, that's an agenda item. Can you wait
I
till
know,
we get to that?
no, I can't. I won't be here for that. I'm sorry. I have a family commitment. So I just wanted to summarize that with respect to the commercial height, we didn't change the fee, but we did change.
I'm sorry, Lene. We need to get a little bit of order going on here, and this is kind of a free for all right now. So
I thought this was just public comment. I could speak to
I
anything
know,
on
but
the
you're
agenda.
doing a public comment on an agenda item, and you're not. The public comment is supposed to be not agenda items.
Oh, okay.
Comments about agenda items happen when they're on the agenda.
Okay, then I will speak on the residential height since it's not on the agenda. When you do, thank you. When you do review the memo, a couple of things that are a challenge would be in the back of your book are diagrams that relate to height. And diagram 5.0 and 4.0 relate to building height based on roof type and do not match the definition that you have in the front of the book and definitions. So the definition of building height that you use is to the highest point of the building. In the diagram 4.0, the height calculation that's listed for all the different roof types is not to the high point, it's to the average grade. Or I'm sorry, the average between the highest point of the roof and the lowest point of the gable. You take the halfway point. So there's just an inconsistency that needs to be corrected. In diagram 5.0, when you have variable grade, that graphic also inconsistently lists the way to measure height with the midway point between the peak and the bottom of the eave, whereas your definition says to the peak. So that is just an inconsistency. The other part is that your previous ordinance, as Jeff mentioned, where there's a variable grade, you measure at the street as your base grade. The new ordinance, you don't measure from property lines nor the street. You take the footprint of the building and you go from the building wall at the front and the building wall at the back, find the halfway point of the building, and then go up from there. The problem with that is you can site your building wherever you want on the property to get a taller building. So it is better from a context standpoint and a neighborhood and a site perspective and context to measure the variable grade from midpoints along the property line or from the street, because that is where you experience the height of the building, not necessarily from where the building is placed on a variable grade property. So those were some key things that I do believe that we want to straighten out, because it will come up when people are going to build a house. They want to know, well, how tall can I build it? Where do we measure it? The diagram in the back says one thing, your definition says another. And then with these bluff properties, we want to make sure that when they're built, they're not artificially or they don't stand out. They're not out of context based on our local neighborhood. And then we also allow 3 stories now. So we're going to see houses that may not have a pitched roof anymore that have 3 stories instead of 2.5. So compound that.
Yeah, I thank you. We need to wrap it up, Lene. And I appreciate your comments. Anything else on public comments? Great. Let's move on to new and old business.
I think that puts us at the Kiwanis and Shea Park.
Yes, I think it does. Okay.
Were we going to discuss the 417 project? He's been very patient without making a decision.
Yes, we were. So let's just, if you have comments or questions about that, Jeff, if you want to just give us a quick overview of what's being proposed.
So this is a special land use request for 417 East Main. We've got the site plan pulled up here. One thing that I will point out is the zoning board of appeals just met on this last week, and they did grant them a variance. So we can see that the proposed garage does spill into the side yard setbacks. This is a very narrow lot. It's only about 33 to 34 feet wide, which is about half the width of many of the lots down there. And based on the discussion, they did feel that there was a practical difficulty in allowing them some leniency with extension into the side yards. So we can basically ignore some of the the issues of the side yard setbacks and the percentage of the footprint that it occupies, even though it really does kind of fly with that. It's they're allowed 40% and they're at 40.2, so it's ever so slightly over. But I think with the side yard variance that's been granted, that's not an issue. And this is really very similar to the guest quarters special land use requests that we received in the past for carriage houses and things like that. It's just a new name. Now it's an ADU. And the architect is here if you'd like to ask any questions or have any type of discussion. But again, we should hold off the public hearing and any decisions for next meeting, right?
So commission members, please keep in mind, this is purely informational. We're not going to be voting on this. And we do have the architect here. If there are questions that you have that you'd like to ask of the architect, please feel free to do so now.
Great. Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I assume you're Robert.
Yes.
Hello, Robert. I've got 3 questions. The first question is, if you scroll back, Jeff, to that spot, and this was on the plan. So is this area the designated 1 parking spot for the ADU?
No, and my name is Rob Sears, at One Beach Drive and principal of Sears Architects, Grand Rapids. The designated parking is in front of, on the north side of the garage right there. You can see the dashed line.
So not this area?
Not that area.
Okay.
Well, it's that area and the area in front of the garage. You can see there's a square dashed line to the pointer's left. Yeah, that's the previous garage that is falling down. So we pulled this building back for south so that we can park in front of the garage.
So there'll
And
be
off
2
the
spaces you're
street.
saying in front right here?
Yes.
Okay, great. My first question. My second one is, one of the questions they had were the utilities. Has that all been determined by an engineer, how you're gonna enter, where those utilities will go from, I'm assuming, third in?
We have not determined that yet, and that's gonna be with the builder, I imagine. They'll be figuring that out with our electrical engineers.
Okay, it might be, if by the next meeting you actually have that data, probably would be just a nice to know. My third question, and it's just maybe a curiosity, Jeff, if you could scroll up. Well, I guess scroll down, I'm sorry, to the actual elevation of the ADU.
Oh, the elevation? Oh,
There you go, right there.
Yep.
So 23, I think your note said it's 23 feet high. What is, just out of curiosity, what's the garage height, and then what's this actual living quarter height?
When you say the garage height, which portion of it?
So
Like
you
the
have
garage
a,
door?
yeah, so this bay for 2 vehicles, that there's a height, there's a ceiling here. Of the 23 feet, what's that height?
10 feet.
Okay,
So
so
it's
then
10.
13 is your interior, well, probably not
Probably
exactly
12,
that.
'cause there's-
Yeah, because there's, right, okay. And that, I assume, makes sense with zoning, that 12 is allowable, I'm sure it is, yeah.
historically, we have not had any requirements for individual story heights for.
Yeah, it was just a curiosity on how they were doing that, but you've been able to do it and you're well within our height range, so good. Those are my 3 questions, thank you. Mr. Sears.
And just to touch on your first question regarding parking, they also will have 2 parking spaces within the building that count towards their parking requirements for the site.
Great.
A couple of clarification questions from me, please. I'm looking at the site plan drawing. The bottom of the drawing is Main Street,
Correct?
and the top of the drawing is Third, so it cuts all the way through to Third. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. So also, Jeff, you mentioned this had been to zoning board of appeals for a variance. Are you able to give us any summary on that, what that variance was?
Yeah, so basically the zoning board of appeals is the body within the city of Harbor Springs that has the ability to grant a property ownership leniency from the requirements of the zoning code. The side yard setback for an accessory building, I believe it's 8 or 10 feet on the side, and those lines are shown here, these dashed lines. Without a variance from the zoning board, they would have to have built their proposed building within those dimensions. In order to get a 2-car garage on here with 24 feet of width, they had to ask for a dimensional variance extension to build beyond that dashed line. In order to do that, they have to prove that they have a practical difficulty. And so they had a discussion at last week's meeting. They did receive some letters from neighbors stating that they were in favor of the project at that meeting. So they did hear from some members of the community. And through that discussion, they did feel that a practical difficulty was present, mainly due to the narrowness of the lot, and did grant the dimensional variance, allowing them to extend the sides of the building beyond that dash line. Does that answer your questions?
It does, yes. I guess it looks like that the dashed line all the way to the Third Street was the prior garage footprint, is that correct?
The dashed lines on here, I don't think represent the previous building. The previous building, well, it may have fit
The
within.
lightly dashed lines that are, yeah, right there, that represents the old previous building. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a significantly larger garage.
No, it's larger, but I wouldn't classify it as significantly larger. And it's deeper, a little bit wider. And it can fit 2 cars.
Okay.
And that garage is there now, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. these are probably in the form of recommendations when you come back, additional information. There was some mention in the review about drainage. And I'd like to have you address that head on when you come back with your formal presentation. I'm channeling one member who's missing, would want to make sure that there is a plan for drainage. And that was a key issue in another project that we reviewed recently. So however you're going to manage the water. The other is, this is more informational, but I would like, when you come back, is to give us more information about the proposed single-story addition to the home. It's somewhat academic, but I think that we need to understand a little bit more about what's going to happen there. Will it look like the existing home? What will the space be used for? Does it drive any changes to utilities? I don't think it will. Those are the kinds of things, so that we just have a little better sense of that other proposed box there. Okay.
No, you'll with a drawing.
Similar information to what you provided here in the garage or the ADU. Yeah, and then addressing some of the other issues the group has mentioned.
We can certainly take a look at that, Kenny, but we do have to understand he doesn't need any special permissions for us to be able to build that addition to the home.
I understand. But just a rendering of side elevation, what's its purpose?
And essentially, it's, as it says, it's a single story addition. It's an extrusion of the existing house, same siding, same trim, same moldings, and it's a master bedroom.
Yeah, okay. That all sounds good. I would expect that kind of information. Okay. I don't sense this to be a big issue, but I just think it's part of the review of the site.
Vinnie, what informational question do you have?
I think you answered. My only question was regarding green space, and are we still within the only a certain amount? I'm wording it all wrong.
Lot coverage?
Yes, thank you.
So the zoning board of appeals kind of granted some variance to that, but they are very close to within the maximum lot coverage. The maximum lot coverage is 40%.
Okay.
And the existing building that's there now is approximately 1,350 square feet in footprint. With the addition to the home and the new proposed garage, their total would go up to 2,175. The footprint, square footage of the lot is a little over 5,400. So the percentage that they would be at is 40%, 40.27%. So they're very close to the limit anyway. The other key thing that I guess would be a point to note is normally we also limit the size of an accessory building to no greater than 75% of the principal building. The principal building with the addition would be approximately 1,623, allowing them up to 1,200 square feet for an accessory building. So they're well with under on that. We also have language in the zoning code that states that they're always allowed for an accessory building up to 576, which is the size for a 24 by 24 garage. And they are under that number.
We're at 574.
Yeah.
And our total lot area coverage calculations are on the bottom right corner of the site plan sheet.
Let me enlarge that.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
behind the. Move this over.
Yeah.
So that's their number right there.
I agree with the numbers that are shown on the screen. 40% is a whole number. 40.2 becomes 40. So that's technically correct.
Chip has had his hand up for a little while. Let's
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, I was at the ZBA meeting and we talked about the project based on the hardship parts of it, but I was supportive of, I am supportive of the project because no problems with the neighbors. And he's also made the commitment that he won't be using the property, the guest bedroom ADU for rental purposes. So I'm definitely supportive of the project.
Thank you, Chip. And all my questions have been answered by the answers you provided to the other members, so I'm good. Anything else? Okay, then let's move on to the Kiwanis and Shea Park City projects. Rachel's gonna walk us through a presentation.
And Are we making decisions on this or is this informational?
This is, no, we are basically going to say that we support, that this is consistent with what is outlined in the master plan, city master plan, we support.
Hi, so I'm Rachel Reardon, I'm your Parks and Recreation Director for, I don't know, another 12 days, I don't know. But a little background, on the project, so we are potentially looking for a recommendation to council, at this meeting. I say that only because my last day is March 31st, so if you do have questions or comments on the project, I'd appreciate them tonight or soon after. So we'll start with, Kiwanis. So a little bit of background on the project. We have a donor through the Petoskey Harbor Spring Community Foundation who has donated $500,000 to Kiwanis Park. So that's how this project came to be. Kiwanis is the largest city park at 22 acres. If you have not been there, it is on the top of Arbor Street and aligns with the city compost. I don't think we need to go side by side. Project goals, we've talked about having an outdoor accessible restroom. Right now, currently in the building has to be unlocked. And then there's a women and men's restroom that is not really accessible in the building. Provide renters with a small kitchenette space. That's a big request we've had with rentals over the years. And then instead of creating a larger building, we thought of how can we expand this space without putting a massive building out there. And thought of expanding with a patio space. So Mark Bidet from Bluebird Designs has come up with these drawings as preliminary drawings for the project. These have gone to the Parks Board and they gave me a recommendation to come to the Planning Commission to move forward. You can see, Jeff, if you just don't mind going back up real quick, sorry. Lose mic, sorry. So we have the unisex outdoor only accessible restroom outside the building. You'd have the gathering room, very similar to what the building is now. Where the current restrooms are, if you have not been in the building, the current restrooms would turn into a small kitchenette, nothing commercial, nothing large, just enough to heat things up, make it accessible for renters. And then where the storage area is in the building, if you're familiar with it, would be revamped to be an ADA women and men's room. That's the site plan of the park. So we're not doing anything with the circle drive. We're not doing anything with the green space surrounding the building. It's solely a building project. I'm not gonna go slide by slide, I'll move on with our lives. But it fits in with the Parks and Recreation Plan and the City Master Plan. I'm sure you all have read that and are familiar with both. There's a lot about providing recreational amenities and specifically about making the amenities you currently have the best they can be. So that's kind of the focus of this project. Any questions specifically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Rachel.
Okay.
So two questions.
Yeah.
I know we're fortunate to have a donor who has gifted a tremendous amount for this. If you go back to the plan, just if we go back to the actual footprint, is this building gonna be heated year round or in the winter, I should say, all the time?
It is right now currently electric baseboards.
So my concern is why have a sink on an outside wall in the kitchen? Is that knowing how cold it gets up there and just in general, does that make sense?
It's something I could take back to the architect. It's not something we've discussed really in full.
But you don't have a problem now, you're saying, could you have a
No.
sink currently there?
Yeah, there is a utility sink on an exterior wall, yes.
And it's just heated by electric heat?
Yep.
Then you don't have a problem, okay. Then it sounds like Mr. Boudet did his homework, he knows what he's doing. My second question is, why with snow do we want a flat roof?
So it will be a slight pitch. That is something that the Parks Board and myself spoke with Mr. Boudet about in depth. For aesthetic reasons with a flat roof and other reasons. Because of how the roof is designed now, we don't have the funds to, and it's in good condition. We've had multiple builders in the area look at it. Since the current roof is stable, we don't have the funds to remove the current roof, nor would we, and replace it with a full new roof. Mr. Boudet finds that the slight pitch would be proficient and the snow will be removed. It won't compile and that's something we talked about in depth.
But is he designing, excuse me, this is a flat roof?
It's not technically completely flat. There is a pitch to it, a slight pitch. I know you can't design.
With snow, even a slight pitch, you're okay with that?
If he felt comfortable that it would be very light.
As an architect, I can offer commentary if it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a semi like that, as long as it's designed to carry the live load of snow, which I'm sure Mark would be incorporating. As long as it's got a slight pitch, when the snow eventually melts, it will drain. So architecturally and drainage wise, I'd see no issues.
Okay, good. Those are my two questions. Thank you, Rachel.
Karen, when I was on the council back at the end of last year, we reviewed this project and both of your questions were asked, particularly why is to have a sink on an outside wall. Wendy brought that up. And Mark was there and pretty much said, nothing to worry about.
Good, thank you.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
The old current building, I'll say current
Yeah.
building, how will the exterior of that change with this remodel?
So preferably we'd like to not change at all. The Parks Board has spoken about that in depth and the historical value of the building, and we really like how it looks. So the next steps would be for Mr. Boudet to bring us materials, natural or otherwise. But we foresee the design and the color of the building to stay consistent with that cabin historical feel.
So I then would put words in your mouth and say that the addition is gonna be designed to sort of blend in with the existing building and how.
Yeah. Correct.
All right, and just off the topic a little bit, but now that we do have the capital improvements plan approval for this and the donor and all that stuff, is all the funding now in place for this?
Correct, yeah.
And when is the proposed timing for the work to actually take place?
So the contract with the community foundation and the donor is that the project should be completed by the end of 2026. That is flexible. We can have negotiations with the foundation if we need to when we bid out the project. We do have a couple, Mark and I have spoken about, we want to get them a bang for our buck and we want to go off what renters have talked about, keep that historical feel. So if we need to put an alternate in the bid with a patio, with an alternate, maybe we don't have the funds to do a patio, we can do it at a later date. If we want to focus on that exterior restroom and doing the inside of the building, that would be our main focus.
Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
This is the second time I've seen this, so I'm fine.
On to Shay.
Yes.
Can you take any comments on that, or is it just not the appropriate time?
No,
I mean, this is an incidental comment, not relative to that, but just as an incidental comment, in 2001, Sears Architects designed a brand, and I didn't know this was coming up tonight. We designed a new structure for this, and at the time we had offered to donate gratis our architectural fees 100%. That was again 2001 with
Sandy Baker, was she?
Sandy, yeah, we were working with Sandy and I.
I have those designs.
Yeah, the red building.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Just an incidental point of fun.
That's fun.
Okay, so Shea Park, landscape master plan, this has came, the planning commission in the past, but we have new members now and I can give some, background. So the Historical Society, came to the Parks Recreation Board and ultimately ended up going to council with the Shea locomotive in Shea Park. And when Parks brought the planning commission installing the locomotive, one of the big comments was, let's not piecemeal this park. We'd like to see a master plan. We'd like to be able to connect the components. So the Parks Board took that to heart and we went back and we created a site plan for the park. Now this is a working document. This has gone, actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure it's on the city council. But you can see from this, so this would be Bay Street down here. And this is Judd. So we have some reference. The AHA's in the top left corner and the Shea locomotive is in the bottom right corner. The Shea locomotive, this is showing the locomotive with the pavilion that the Historical Society plans to at some point with funding to cover. Just keep that in reference, that would be the final size of the pavilion. What we had discussed for connecting the components is an ADA walking loop through the park and then with stairs going up to Main Street, which would give a second entrance to the park space. In the future, if the Parks Department or council decided to plan it out, we did put in for the walking loop to do the entire park, maybe a small playscape. And then these squares you see in the center are the tents for all the events that happen in the park, just to show that it's still organic with everything else that still happens, like shading and Festival of Up. There is some history between this. So we did reach out to Jim Reamer at some point about, having to have an ADA walking path to the features. And I believe he did theme to the city manager and that is something the city would need to do in the future at some point. So this is the plan that we came up with. Any questions?
Yes. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask about funding. Are you fully funded for this?
So, yes and no. So there is $30,000 in capital outlay for the parks budget that council has approved for 2 years. Parks, we were fundraising for it, but we were also fundraising for the boardwalk and some other projects. And with the boardwalk half finished, it seemed prudent to finish that project for, putting efforts and other.
So some of the funding for the east side of the boardwalk is redundant with this? Is that what you're saying?
No, we just didn't want to be fundraising for 3 projects at once. We were trying to prioritize our fundraising efforts. Yeah, but there is $30,000 in capital outlay and council can decide if they'd like to move forward or not.
Is that the full cost of the project?
Correct. For the walking path, yeah.
Can you go back to the landscape design?
Honestly, unfortunately, no. But absolutely.
That's it. Thank you, Jeff.
I gotta go, you guys, I'm sorry. So I wanna thank Rachel for all her work, but she's got 11 days to work and she's busting her butt this done so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Do Jeff.
Or Kyle. Okay,
Yeah.
Rachel,
Yeah.
is this a solid surface or is this gravel?
That is a solid surface.
Great. And the stairways I think are needed, but obviously they're not gonna be ADA compliant, but maybe we solve that by coming in off of Judd or Bay.
Correct.
Okay,
I would argue to put it in context, I would argue the stairs aren't necessarily needed. I think our focus was how do you end a 4-foot walking path abruptly in front of the AHA without making kind of a platform. And it seems like we wanted that hardscape in the park. And it would be nice to have an entrance off Main Street.
I totally agree with you. I think this is a welcome addition, especially for anyone who's on Main. They have to go all the way down here to get to the park. So I think that's a welcome addition. So this is a solid surface. My last question is the garden club at all helping from a volunteer standpoint to maintain this, or is it all DPW?
We haven't broached that discussion with the garden club, so I don't want to speak for them, but I will say they always came on board to be supportive of any added gardens in the city limits. I think the landscaping portion would be something that have to be heavily weighed in how we move forward with that and the maintenance of it. So I don't foresee a lot of gardens going in right away. We do have a plan to put a K Park sign right here that would match the rest of the wayfinding signage in the city. And we also, I don't know how familiar everyone is with the park, but there is a straight line of trees right here. And like straight lines of trees, that's strange in a park. And you're also losing about 30 feet of green space due to that line of trees. So we did plan on scattering some of the, like a tree over here for some shade, and then moving some others to Harbor View, because I don't know if you all know that the pickleball courts, a couple were taken out the past few years. So yeah.
Good.
Sorry, I hope that answered your question.
No, you did. The only other question I was thinking was, could currently we have Tai Chi or some sort of exercise classes. I assume that in that rectangular area, that could still take place.
Correct, yeah, Ally has a massive gathering here every Saturday, as we all know, for yoga. Yes, so the walking path will cut into the green space a little bit for her. But you have to take into consideration, that we're gonna gain that 30 feet on that right side when we rearrange those trees. And we already are working with Hoffman to do that, so they're scheduled.
That looks good. Thank you. Commission members, any other questions? Discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make one.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
Jeff?
sorry.
And I'm not sure if this is even part of this discussion, but did the planning commission previously approve the canopy over the locomotive? I mean, I think it's pretty unsightly, and I'm not sure if that's part of this discussion or not.
So that was previously approved when they brought in the submission for the locomotive going in. The canopy was shown on that plan, and we did approve that site plan. And that was the trigger for this meeting. At that meeting, we had previously approved the site plan to bring in the AHA. And then we were looking at the locomotive with the canopy. So we basically said, we would like to look at a cohesive plan that involves the entire park so that we don't feel like we're piecemealing it together.
Okay, I guess my question is, was the canopy that was approved previously the same as what's being depicted now?
I can't speak for the historical society either. They are still actively fundraising for the pavilion. I don't know what image is on, but I don't think there's not a final design for it by any means.
It looks like a shed.
Yeah, down, yeah, down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chip, I think that's just a generic image that the historical society chose to show it over, but there's been no design brought to parks or otherwise for going over. And I think that was decided at the Parks Board that the historical society would come back with specific designs and details on the pavilion.
I may be the only one here in person or online tonight that was part of the planning commission when this came last time. And that is the image that I remember seeing it when that was approved previously.
Okay. Thank you.
Kenny, you were saying?
No, I'm all set.
No, you were saying about a motion.
Oh, a motion.
There's a hand up there too.
Not anymore. Yep.
On these?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. We'll take
Margaret's iPad, if you'd like to.
Thanks, Jeff. Maggie Lacey, 315 East 3rd Street. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
So this is has been evolving over several years, and this is my concern that I had last night with regards to, we have a lot of assets, but we don't have a lot of funds to cover this, and no one considers the cost of DPW taking care of this park. I mean, quite frankly, I think Shea, the museum, should take over this property because it is basically their focus. And before it was just going to be the boat, then it was a train, now it's the pathway, then it's something else. And if you look at the intricacies of this, the cost of us to maintain this park has increased significantly. And it's the same thing that's happened on State Street before. When we narrowed it, no one mentioned that we're actually adding trees to this. And it's just a little bit, we're going through the planning commission, or it was the city council that was covering this. And I just think we need to step back and understand what truly is the cost when we are changing these parks and adding to this as much as that it is. If I was a city and I was in charge, I'd say, you know what, Museum, you guys have basically taken over this. You know, you guys should be taking over the planning and the execution of this and what's going on, because this is so much out of the city's element that we have no control of this anymore, of the cost. And I go back to, as I spoke to last night, we have infrastructure that we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. And now we're adding to this of the cost analysis. And this is not your job to figure this out, but Parks has gone to the city council, to planning, and where does this lie that we create a line item of what actually the cost is on this. And as you said, do we have money to cover this? And we don't. So before we approve this, we really need to make sure that we have the funds to cover the costs, as well as the money to manage this, because this is costing us a great more deal for DPW to go in there and mow it. You know, back in 2017, it was a clean slate. They went in, they mowed it, they walked away. Now you're looking at a lot of intricate details around this. So I just want to make sure that you guys, unfortunately, you have to make a decision based on what your decision is, but there's so much more here that I don't want you guys to go forward until we go back and understand the cost of maintaining this park.
Okay,
Or we
thank
give
you.
it, or we give it to the Shea Museum and say, here you go, because that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. So Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but the issue that we're being tasked with is this consistent with the master plan, not funding?
Correct.
So that kind of train has left the station as far as funding is concerned. We don't have any control over that. But all we're being asked to do is determine whether or not we think this is consistent with the master plan.
Correct. Funding, I believe, would be a discussion that would take place at city council.
City council.
Carter Williams, 355 East Bay Street. So I used to use this park all the time. I don't any longer because of how it's shifted. When Allie started doing the yoga, I thought it was sort of interesting because all of a sudden everybody in the community would be there doing yoga. It was a little bit of a challenge because you couldn't drive by at that point. There were so many cars because there was no acknowledgement for the parking. So it was cool that I thought the entire community was using the park. A little bit of a challenge on a Saturday because you couldn't really drive down the street there because everybody was parked illegally. So we really haven't addressed the parking. And I don't know if we've wiped it and we're pregnant now, but like a lot fewer people use it. Having lived next to this park for the last 10 years, a lot fewer people seem to be using it. And there are a lot of times I go by it. So we're sort of now in a position where I'm not sure how you evaluate all that. I personally, from a master plan standpoint, Allie doing yoga there feels more consistent with like the community using a park than the train's interesting once.
Yeah.
But again, we're pregnant.
Yeah, too. So
And nobody's addressed the fact
that train has literally left the station.
What?
That train has literally left the station.
Oh, I'm talking about Barnes Shape Park.
Yeah, so I take your point, but I don't think we're not gonna drive that train off that part.
I believe my points are that it's inconsistent with the objective of the master. We've made a decision that's inconsistent with the master plan and with putting those things. Because fewer people can use it.
Well, we're evaluating whether or not we wanna put a walkway, right? Because the train is already there.
I get it. Yes, giving you context.
No, I understand. Okay, any other conversation? All right. I think you were about to make a motion 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. So I moved that the planning commission submit our recommendation to city council that they move forward with the Kiwanis Park and Shea Park plans as submitted, and those plans are consistent with the master plan. How's that?
Great.
I would second that motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
And I also have an addendum.
Okay,
This is not a decision proposed recommendation, whatever. But as a note, planning commission also suggests the city council evaluate long-term maintenance costs and operations funding sources for the parks.
Good call.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a suggestion, it's not a requirement.
I think the maintenance part is, that's valid.
So it's not conditional to your motion.
No, it's a suggestion on their budget process for them to look out for. Does that make sense?
yep, does. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I have 1 second?
Absolutely.
I need to take a 1 minute leave to cancel my business dinner tonight.
Oh, no.
Recognizing that we're at a quorum here. I wasn't either not planning the meeting going this long, or two was gonna take off, so I just need 1 moment.
Absolutely.
I know we're not supposed to communicate during a meeting, but I'm not texting or emailing anybody associated with the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
I think,
Yeah, read my mind, thank you.
So, anyone know any good jokes?
What's big, green and fuzzy, and if it fell out of a tree, it would kill you? A pool table. That's my bad dad joke.
That bad dad joke.
Yeah, you're right, that's a bad one.
Michigan State beat North Dakota State 92-67.
Oh, good.
And the final Duke score was 71-65.
So I was trying to get here and I set the alarm on the speaker. You have to have an alarm to score. You could begin with. So I set it and then I forgot this was sitting right. So I ran back in. So I must have paused when I did that. So when I got in the car, I thought I was fine, but the alarm was going.
Duke was behind for a good portion.
I
of the game.
watched most of it. I didn't see the first half. I saw the second.
You guys are real basketball fans.
I love this time of year.
Yeah, yeah. So for some reason as a kid, it was either hockey or basketball. I played hockey. But yeah, this is exciting. The March Madness.
Yeah, and it's.
My stepdad was a hockey coach.
Yeah.
And so, and at that time, we had one TV downstairs and one, so we would fight. Back then, I liked pro basketball. Now I like, so we would fight every night over the guy.
Yeah,
So I love hockey too. though.
yeah, yeah.
And Michigan State was a good hockey team.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. Okay, I think we're back, right? You good? Good. Sorry you had to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so the next discussion item is minimum, well, it says minimum story heights. I'm gonna just say story heights for properties within the central business district. So,
Thanks, Rob.
Jeff, if I could ask, can you give us a summary of this issue and what you think the hot buttons are?
I guess it's not my issue, so I think, you know, Chip was the one that really wanted this to be on the agenda. To talk about story heights in the CBD, I don't have any concerns or think it's a hot button one way or the other, so I guess. I'd like to punt to Chip, if Chip, you'd like to. Sorry to do that, Chip, but do you wanna share your thoughts on why you wanted this as an item on the agenda?
Well, I've just, it's been, you know, a hot topic for the past, like, since we approved the code. And I just wanted to have more thoughts about it. For me, I just was introducing it because it was a hot topic, and I thought it was like with the planned unit development, same thing. And I just wanted to have a discussion about it. I'm not really prepared to argue for a change in it. I'd like to hear a discussion about it.
Thank you for that. So, council, commission members, do any of you have any thoughts or concerns about the way the current ordinance is worded as far as the CBD is concerned?
I have no concerns. Just as review, we standardized the 35-foot height in the CBD. And we also made provisions of additional 40-something inches.
42 inches.
42 inches to allow for safety railing around what could be a rooftop patio. Or HVAC and other stuff, provided it's set back from the edge. I'm very happy with that. In going through the library that is Lene Wells, I found February 2nd letter where she suggested requiring a minimum of 12 to 15 feet for first floor structures in the CBD. And her rationale was that way you're future proofing that building if it ever gets converted into something like a restaurant or needs heights. And she didn't make anything more specific than that range of 12 to 15 feet. We don't have that provision today, so I guess from her perspective, we should have it. And that's her recommendation from February 2nd. So that's the only nugget I can hold on to. And I think we've reviewed this just fine, and I think that we've also recognized that
I can't hear
has a
what's being
whole lot
said.
of combinations. We have a whole lot of combinations of buildings and heights, and mix and match, and we like that, as opposed to cookie cutter types of thing. So the moment we specify height to the first floor, somebody's gonna say that, you know, we're eliminating the charm out of the variations of the various buildings.
I'll take it one step further. I think the moment we do that, a whole bunch of buildings are gonna be non-compliant. Because I don't think every building in the CBD is 12 to 15, has 12 to 15 feet of first floor height.
So devil's advocate, because I visual,
Sure.
to your point, that's what makes downtown charming, are the different heights. And so hypothetically speaking, somebody comes in and they buy J. McLaughlin and the store next to it. So there are very few one-story cute little stores left. And economically speaking, they're just going to go up. Is there anything we can do to safeguard that, to keep the different heights so that it isn't a block building that they are utilized? We don't want to look like a mall. We want to stay. Is there anything in, whether it's setback from the sidewalk that varies, or balconies, or anything that keeps it quaint? Because right now there's nothing saving us. I'm not saying that ceiling height would save us, but is there anything that would save us?
Well, I would counter to say that there are a lot of things that are required if you're building something in the CBD. And Jeff, you can speak to this much better than I can. But there are requirements about the amount of window space in the first floor. There are requirements about materials, and it's the most prescriptive, I believe, area that we have within the city. And it's hard to operationalize the word charm. But on the other hand, we put in several provisions that are required. And Jeff, perhaps you could, you know, add to that.
Right, we just now in our new version of the zoning code, we've added some design standards, which we really haven't had before. And I think we were very cautious on that, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't go too far with that. Once you start to look at design standards, the more you start adding, the more you start taking over control of what you're gonna see downtown. And if you're too specific with your design standards, you will start to get cookie cutter where everything looks the same. So I think we want to be careful not to go too far with that, but we did want to make sure that certain things, you know, wouldn't be done within the downtown that change the character of the downtown. So some, I think, is appropriate. Going too far can be dangerous, and we start to take over control too much. You know, roof heights that you were talking about, Jeannie. You know, we did try that once before to try and get people to do roof lines the way that we wanted to see them. In the waterfront district, we added a caveat that if they did a project in a certain way, they could do the stepping of roofs thing to kind of break up the silhouette of the building. The downside is, you know, over the course of time that we had that in the code, not many applicants took us up on that offer to do that. And then in the one or two few times where it was done, it really didn't work out the way that it was intended. So I don't think it achieved the goal that we were trying to set with that. And I think it's just kind of difficult to get people to do that, and I don't know how we can certainly talk about, you know, language, but I think it would be difficult to do it, and then how do you entice a property owner to go that route instead of doing something else? Unless you just mandate that roofs are gonna have some type of feature, but now you're really dictating.
What do historical, like Charleston or, what do historically speaking, towns that have the history that they want to retain, what do they do?
Well, you know, if you really have a character of your community that you want to protect in your style and design of an area, you can step further into form-based zoning. And form-based zoning is more the idea of, we want to capture this look and idea as opposed to, you know, what's going on inside the stores. I think Gaylord is probably a good example of a local area. They certainly have a style. When you're downtown, those buildings are kind of that chalet style. And so you could say, we want to make sure that new buildings that come in will keep that style. And so you can have, and once you start getting into design standards, you're stepping your toe into that.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to go that route. Is there, and we're talking heights, and I'm finished after this, sorry. Is there anything, and maybe there is something in there regarding setbacks? Because I feel like they're not everything is built to the sidewalk. Is there anything that would keep the footprint as it is? So that would kind of enforce not having a line of building. It would, trying to like.
Meander.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything that we could do? I just think it's important to do what we can to keep the charm, and so that.
One thing that I think we have to be careful of with that though is, if you implement a new rule that would do that, how, you know, downtown is already very well developed, right? And let me use story height or of the first floor as an example. You know, if we were to look at some potential, you know, like setting a minimum or a maximum of 12 to 15 feet, how many other properties would become non-compliant? And then if those properties wanted to make a change and it triggers that they have to fix that non-compliance, then now that might really exacerbate and dramatically change the scope of the project that they wanted to do. So similarly, if we wanted to try and implement some rule to say that we don't want all of the buildings to be built right to the property line, we want, you know, every other building needs to be stepped a certain way, then that could trigger then if let's say that one of the buildings that's currently non-compliant and they want to redo the face of their building, I would have to then tell them, sorry, but you have to move the face of your building back 4 feet. You know, we have to be cognizant of what other unintended consequences that might cause.
Even if it's already built the way, I mean, even, I can't think of an example. Say Jay McLaughlin's already was set back 5 feet, which is already back a little bit. Could you not say that the building would have to start where, if they tore it down,
to stay within the footprint of the building that's there?
From the sidewalk? Just to maintain, and maybe this isn't even what we're talking about. I just am putting it out there. Is that something that we should think about it? What can we do to keep the charm of downtown that we're missing?
I think the difficulty that you're getting into there is now you're starting to zone properties differently from each other. If this property is subject to one set of zoning and the property right next to it is now subject to a different type of zoning, especially depending on the number of properties that it affects, are we accidentally getting ourselves into a spot zoning situation?
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't want to take everybody.
That makes sense. I could look into it further, and this is probably a really good example where I don't have all the answers, and I would refer to our consultant to get some more feedback and what potential ways there are to maybe resolve that issue.
I'm thinking about running water, for instance, in that corner. We already have the other side of the street to come into town and just to have a tunnel. So what can we do to maintain? I guess it's just something to think about.
So let me take a crack at, and I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, I think that the CBD is very, very charming here in Harbor Springs. But I'll tell you that from my perspective, it's charming because there were no requirements from a zoning perspective. I think that's one of the things that enabled Harbor Springs to have a unique vision, because there was nobody saying you have to do everything exactly the same. I fear that if we have and we're talking about building heights, not setbacks and that sort of thing, but if we have a minimum 12-foot or 15-foot height for first story ceilings, I think that is gonna unfortunately result in exactly what you don't want, which is a cookie cutter look across the entire town. We have provided things like, as Jeff has said, guidelines on windows and window placements. Entryways have to be, if I'm not mistaken, have to be set back. You can't have an entryway right at the sidewalk so that you have a recessed entryway. And you know, I've thought about this a lot, and one thing that keeps coming to my mind when issues like this are raised is when I was making the presentation to council on the ordinance, and I brought up the fact that we've tried to implement provisions to make sure that we don't have a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
The mayor said,
Yeah.
why do we need that? Yeah, you know, we've got great looking buildings here. We can do it ourselves. So, I mean, my feeling is if we try to legislate a really charming downtown, it's probably gonna look like a Stepford Wives.
Yeah, and I don't want that, so
Downtown,
I
you
get
know what I
that.
mean?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Question and a comment?
Yeah.
And I like Ms. Benjamin's approach because it is our town. I mean, that's what brings the charm. If you want something new, you go to across the bay and everything's new and beautiful, but there's no story. So I love the historic preservation. That's my bailiwick. I love it. So my comment is this is where council really should think about putting together that historic commission, which by code they're supposed to have as a consulting group, if nothing else, for historic buildings. You're new in town. What do I want to see? It's not going to hurt. That body, if they're skilled, can give some good advice and guidance. Doesn't mean it's zoning. It's not directing, but it gives guidance. And sometimes people just need guidance. So I'd make a plug for, now it's time to get that zoning commission or that historic commission in place. My second is just a question, and it's to you, Chip. Were you thinking of any one thing that really was the key to your requesting this be on?
You know, I mean, honestly, I was talking about number of stories and building height for the entire city. I wasn't focused on the CBD. I was more focused on the issue we talked about earlier. And somehow this got on the agenda as just the CBD. I don't really have an issue about the CBD. And so my mistake, but that's kind of where it fell.
Good, thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I think we talked about, you know, obviously the discussion tonight is focused on CBD. We talked about this ad nauseum. I think everybody was in agreement that story height didn't apply. I like the fact that we capped the maximum building height. And then let the developer or builder, property owner make the decision on how they want to structure their building. So I think we got it right in the zoning code.
Thank you. Other comments or thoughts?
I'm set. There's a hand raised.
Margaret's iPad?
Sorry, I had my hand up for a while. I just wanted to say thank you, Kenny, for recognizing the what I had to say about regarding to cost and maintenance versus just letting this pass and having that fall through the cracks, because I think this is what's happening in a lot of these things. So I do appreciate you guys recognizing what took place with the Shea Park. My only thought with the regards to the height of the CBD, I like the fact that we do have what's in place right now. If you look back to Virgil Haynes, some of the older pictures, we actually had buildings that were 4 stories high when we had lumbering taking place in this town. So we've gone full circle of whatever it is. And I still think that you need to let the creativity, if we start getting to the point where we're constricting so much of what's inside the house and the height and so forth, you might as well just create track homes. And I don't want to be in a town that has track homes. And that's kind of where we're going down the road when you are controlling so much that you're not letting creativity happen. So that's all I have to say with regards to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everyone's in agreement. Thank you.
I would respectfully ask we take up the issue of building height and stories in the residential areas at a later date, and that we pass on this issue. I'm fine with it.
Absolutely, Chip. I think that's what we were intending to do.
Could I just ask for clarification on that?
Yeah.
The planning commission wants to talk about restricting homeowners as to how high their first floor can be.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
That's what I just heard. In residential areas, we want to have this same discussion.
He said building height.
I thought he said building heights.
Okay, maybe I got it wrong. This was, all right.
All right,
What you asked?
do we have a motion to accept the wording on the CBD building heights and specifically first floor as it exists today in the ordinance?
I don't think we need to.
Oh, yeah,
That's decided.
it's already there. All right, well, then forget that idea. All right. Member comments, any comments that the planning commission members would like to offer at this point in time?
I just want to comment that, you know, Jeannie, you came across like you were concerned that you were dragging out the conversation. Please don't think of it that way. I think that all of these discussions, grinding through these things is healthy. And so we should speak up. We all should. So I appreciate the conversation.
So you want me to speak up? You want me to speak up more? Just kidding.
Not you.
Well, Chip, I mean, as long as you're offering, Chip, can you clarify what it is that you want to be a future discussion in the residential areas?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's more about what she was talking about in fixing the problems we have, but also in, you know, keeping the idea that there's not a flat roof, or trying to get around the number of stories versus the height of the building. And again, it's just a discussion.
All right, other comments from members?
I just have a quick,
Yes.
thank you very much for entertaining my questions. I came onto this so late that I really did miss a lot of the downtown talk.
Oh,
And I don't remember much from when I was on board.
absolutely.
And thank you to Chip, because I was the deciding vote on passing the zoning, and I just needed assurance that everybody's happy and we're doing okay.
We're doing okay.
One question, comment? Can it be on a non-related issue we've already talked about? I'm gonna ask Mr. Grimm, just to give me some comfortable feeling on ARC. So currently there's 6 members, and my concern was the wording says that they all have to be unanimous, but if one of the members is incapacitated for whatever reason, is it acceptable that it's unanimous with the remaining 5? Or do we always have, in Mr. Ranger's opinion, 6 people who always have to vote? If there aren't 6, it goes back to planning. Can we definitively say that?
Give me a better definition of what you mean by incapacitated.
So let's say someone, God forbid, say they're in a coma, say they're in a foreign land and they're unable to vote. Is that, what I don't want to see is, because I think that our language is not maybe strong enough. I don't want to see then someone say, well, we had 5 votes and we were unanimous in our decision. That should not be the case. I don't think that was the intent of the code. The intent was that all 6 had to vote one way, negatively or affirmatively, in order for it to work. I don't want to see someone in some future capacity saying, well, we had 5 that voted either affirmatively or negative, but the 6th person wasn't there, so the people that could vote voted all the same way.
I think, and I think another thing we need to keep in mind is the administrative review committee, it's not like a board that's gonna have a meeting per se, right? Like past practice with how we've done this hasn't been, let's hold an administrative committee meeting.
Doesn't have to be a
We're gonna
meeting,
meet
you
at
vote,
4
all I'm
o'clock.
talking about is the vote.
Yeah, I get that, but let me provide my background as to why I don't think that that's an issue, right? What we've done in the past is this has been a, you know, when an administrative review committee topic comes up, I reach out to the people generally via email and say, here's the issue, here's the information. Review this and get back to me on your thoughts on this. So it's not everybody show up at 4 o'clock and we're gonna have a meeting and we're gonna vote. It's respond to my email sometime over the next week and tell me what your thoughts are. So I feel that it's very much, we're gonna need 6 votes. If it's to the point where somebody's incapacitated, they're in a coma, they're whatever, we're probably at the point where they're being replaced on the administrative review committee.
As long as you can clearly tell me, I agree. But what I don't want to see is in that scenario where someone is incapacitated for 30 days or God forbid, a year. I don't want to see a scenario where we say that person can't vote, but the other 5 voted all consistently. We should never have that situation. And I just want either Mr. Raymer or you to definitively say that could never happen. If we don't get 6 votes, it goes back to the planning committee.
Just a comment. There is another mechanism as an off-ramp in the provision now, and that is any one member of the administrative review committee can say, stop, I think we ought to kick this
I get
back
that,
to
Kenny.
planning.
Yep, I get it. But what if the 5 are all of the same mindset and the 6 would have been a different mindset? I understand that provision and it's good that it's there. It doesn't answer our dilemma.
It's gonna be a unanimous decision of all 6. If I don't have all 6, it's gonna come to the planning commission.
And legally, you're saying that will never happen, that we'll have less than 6. If we don't have 6, it comes back to planning.
Let me put myself on record as making a zoning administrator interpretation of the zoning code. That when it says a unanimous decision of all 6, I do not have the authority to say that I could only get in touch with 5 members. And so I'm going to move forward with a decision of 5.
Good.
If anybody would like to appeal that decision, they can appeal that to the zoning board of appeals.
Excellent.
Well, thank you.
That's the way we handle this normally. You say the quorum has to be 6. If you want to do it electronically, you can put it, but it should be written down.
This was exactly my point.
If it's a legislative body and it's doing something, which you are a legislative body, it should be defined in the rules. And the term is a quorum.
Okay. All right, any other comments? And
I'd say, if you have specific recommendations for changing the wording of the current zoning code, feel free as a citizen to submit.
He was asking a question that was not being answered, and he was wondering what the right way to do it and the right legal way to write it down. I'm not telling you you have to do it that way, but that is the proper way to write it down. It's not, oh, I promise, make sure that they're gonna be 5. That's all. You create ambiguities, then people get upset about the ambiguities, then they run around and create a whole bunch of noise where you write the rules down clearly and then follow the rules. That's just a sensible way to cut down the noise and the frustration.
I think the rules are really clear. It says unanimous vote of all 6 members.
It doesn't say of all 6. It says unanimous vote of, does it say all? I don't think it says all 6 members.
It says that the board is made up of, or the committee is made up of 6 people, and it says that all decisions need to be unanimous.
Right, so I still go back to my business law mindset is 5 people voted and they were unanimous in their vote. It
It
doesn't,
doesn't say that we only reach out to 5. It says there are 6 people on the committee and the decision needs to be unanimous.
this is, well,
I think you're adding complications that don't exist.
I just don't wanna see us down the road in a situation where it could have been prevented had we put the word quorum, or if we got a legal opinion that said, Mr. Raymer said, it always has to be 6, and specifically 6, not just unanimous.
So,
5 people can be unanimous.
gentlemen, look. Jeff has said that it's a unanimous vote. It's not written down right now. Take your point. We talked about having a parking lot for items that surface, like perhaps this one, that weren't anticipated. We're gonna take care of it. We'll codify it in the ordinance, and you'll have to take his word for it until we do this. But I think that's the way to do it. And Jeff, I think that, you know, along with a couple of other things that we've already got on that list, that should probably be on there.
Added it too.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right,
Mr. Grimm?
meeting adjourned.
Thank you.